Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us. The Social Security Administration says it's going to cut 7,000 jobs in keeping with executive orders from President Trump to reduce the federal workforce. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne says those cuts could include an office in the North County.
They close an office. Doesn't just mean worse service.
In a press conference on Friday, Congressman Mike Levin demanded a halt to the looming closures of Social Security offices.
I'm here to sound the alarm about Elon Musk's attempt to dismantle the Social Security Administration and potentially disrupt and delay benefits for the 70 million Americans across the country who rely on Social Security.
Earlier this week, the Department of Government Efficiency website, or DOGE, listed a Carlsbad Social Security office as part of its real estate savings list. But there is no known Social Security office in Carlsbad. The nearest office is in Oceanside, or so we thought.
There is indeed a non-public facing Social Security office. It's the area director's office in Carlsbad. And that's something that we had to go find out for ourselves. The Social Security Administration never shared that. That office helps to oversee the 8 regional Social Security offices throughout San Diego County, which range from downtown to Oceanside to Chula Vista, San Marcos, and others.
Levin says he's been given very little information about the office in Carlsbad and is working to find out the location and staff size. Regardless, he says the restructuring of the Social Security Administration could be detrimental to millions of vulnerable residents.
We can't afford to lose a single one of these 8 regional offices, certainly including the one in Oceanside that I was just at. When they close an office, it doesn't just mean worse service or longer lines. It means some people will have no access at all to the help that they need.
Help that many say is already so backed up. Oceanside resident Rosalyn Arellano says in January she waited 9 hours on the phone with Social Security for an appointment to receive spousal benefits.
So my appointment was set a month later, which was a week ago. So I was so excited. I had all my paperwork ready to talk to somebody, and literally nobody called me from Social Security. I stayed on the phone. I sat next to the phone all day, waiting. So I couldn't sleep that night. Next day I called that 800 number again, and finally, the wait was only 2 hours this time. Somebody answered and said they were very sorry, but there's glitches in the system, and all they could do is offer me another appointment.
Her new appointment is now in April. News of cuts in staff make her think that appointment could not happen.
It's only going to get worse. Obviously, they will not call me in April, and if I try to call back, it'll probably be maybe 20-hour wait the next time, and then my appointment will probably be next January. I don't know. It's going to be horrible.
Social Security anticipates many of its job cuts will be cut through retirements and voluntary separations. SSA and other federal agencies have until March 13th to submit their restructuring plans. Levin hopes members of Congress will speak up and push back against the administration. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. Weather headlines here as we head into the weekend. I am tracking a cloudy but mild forecast here for your Saturday and Sunday. Rain chances will move back into the forecast here as we head into early next week here across Southern California, but overall I am tracking a mild and nice pattern here shaping up as we head into March. I'll have an updated look at that forecast coming up.
Recovery operations are winding down in the San Diego Bay following a fighter jet crash 2 weeks ago. The Navy announced that civilian boaters will regain access to the Shelter Island basin after heavy equipment is removed on Sunday. Officials say they have recovered more than 15 tons of wreckage from the underwater debris field. Scaled down salvage operations are expected to continue over the next 2 weeks. The cause of the crash remains under investigation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky left the White House today without a deal after a heated exchange with President Trump. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook has details.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived at the White House Friday for high-stakes talks with President Donald Trump about the war in Ukraine. After sitting down in the Oval Office, an astonishing exchange. The two world leaders shouting at one another.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a
answer?
lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this.
Part of today's goal was to sign an agreement that would give the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals in exchange for what Ukraine hoped would be concrete security guarantees.
You're not in a good position.
I
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
It's been 3 years now since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And just a few weeks ago, U.S. leaders held talks with Russian leaders about a peace agreement. But Ukraine was not included in those talks.
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way.
Zelensky departed early with no deal and no press conference. Trump posting on social media that Zelensky had, quote, disrespected the United States and was not, quote, ready for peace. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
LGBTQ plus migrants in Tijuana have a new place to seek support. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler was in Tijuana for the opening.
A big fiesta to celebrate the opening of a place with a serious mission.
Just in the last 5 years, 3,000 refugees have been, or LGBTQ people have been killed in Central America. There are still 60 countries where it's illegal to have a same-sex relationship. And there are still 7 countries around the world where you're put to death if you are part of a same-sex relationship.
That's Jack Noren, the founder of Casa de Luz in San Diego. 5 years ago, Noren came to Tijuana and learned about the unique struggles LGBTQIA plus refugees face in Tijuana.
I decided after being involved for a few years and having a successful career in real estate that I wanted to do something in a big way, and so I acquired the house behind us.
Noren says Casa de Luz Tijuana turned the original building into 20 dorm rooms with 3 staff quarters, and they can house up to 60 refugees. They come from all over the world.
They're coming in from Central America. A lot of them are from the Caribbean, from Cuba, Jamaica, and currently we've also been receiving lots of refugees from the Ukraine and Russia.
Today's celebration brought San Diego's Mayor Todd Gloria to Tijuana.
With changing issues at the national level, it is more important than ever that local citizen diplomats do the work of making sure that we remain connected, because again, our futures and our fates are tied up together.
Tijuana's mayor, Ismael Burgueño Ruiz, says that his government aims to be inclusive of all people, regardless of their sexual orientation.
Decirles que en el gobierno municipal que me honro en encabezar, estamos, y lo decimos muy claro, comprometidos en ser un gobierno humanista, inclusivo y solidario.
18 of the dorms at Casa de Luz are already full, and Noren expects the remaining 2 vacancies to be filled over the weekend. In Tijuana, Matthew Bowler, KPBS News.
The Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge cooled as expected last month, but the good news came with a potential red flag for the U.S. economy. Ivan Rodriguez breaks down the numbers and what Americans can expect.
Typically, after the holidays, consumer spending suffers from a hangover in the new year. But newly released Commerce Department data shows consumers pulled back far more in January than economists expected. Spending fell 0.2% from December. Adjusting for inflation, spending sank 0.5%. Those are the biggest monthly drops since February 2021.
And here in the coffee shop, you hear people talking about, are we going to be able to afford to get a car loan? Are we going to be able to afford to buy eggs?
The cost of food, especially eggs, along with energy, pushed up prices for consumers and producers last month.
I think a lot of people, it's like anything else, you're just hoping that your costs don't increase more.
The average cost of a dozen eggs in January was $4.95, almost double the price from a year ago and surpassing a record high, according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
As long as you can stabilize your costs and forecast what they're going to be, then you can kind of adjust everything else around it. But when all of a sudden, like the last few years, when it's just like, when you get these massive surges in costs, it's tough.
Certain signals also indicated the economy is softening. GDP growth is slowing, business investment is sluggish, and consumers are growing pessimistic on fears that inflation will pick up, primarily because of President Trump's talks of tariffs, according to various surveys. I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
4 options for moving the railroad tracks off the Del Mar Bluffs will go through environmental review this spring. Today, Sandag's board voted to advance all 4 alternatives. They include a no-build option where the tracks remain where they are and the bluffs reinforced. 2 involve tunneling under Del Mar, which residents oppose. And the final option is to tunnel around the city and under the fairgrounds, which fairgrounds officials are against. Sandag says the routes could be further refined during the environmental impact review process. More and more tents are popping up along the sides of freeways on state property managed by the California Department of Transportation, otherwise known as Caltrans. San Diego's city leaders call it a growing problem. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas spoke to homeless service providers who say their clients are moving to state property to escape more frequent encampment sweeps under the city's unsafe camping ordinance.
Walk through downtown and you'll see them. Neon green signs giving people 24 hours notice before an encampment sweep. San Diego has prohibited tent camping in public spaces for more than a year. Aldea Sikori got used to it when she was camping downtown.
Every other day, pretty much they make us clean up and move.
She found authorities were less likely to make her move next to the freeway.
We were on the side of the freeway for like a month, or down by 17th Street, and that was okay, and then more people started to come.
Outreach workers with the Father Joe's Village's street health team say more and more of their homeless patients are crossing from city to state property. It makes it harder and more dangerous for them to provide care and connect people to services.
We try to encourage folks to come out for health care outside of the fence, but since the encampments have moved onto the Caltrans areas and behind fences near freeways, it scares me more on a personal level.
The team visits encampments weekly to provide things like wound care, substance use disorder counseling, and prescription management. Without it, minor health issues can have serious consequences.
That small ingrown hair turns into an abscess. And so if we can't find them in that interim when that is going on, it goes from it being a mild wound care situation to an antibiotic situation.
The team hasn't always been able to find Lee Alvarez.
There's a couple different times they couldn't find me, and I was just literally across the street and around a corner.
They monitor her high blood pressure and make sure she has her medication.
I have noticed that it helps considerably. At first I was hesitant to even realize that it was working or helping, but then when we started seeing the results in the blood pressure readings, they were like more normal, and then I wasn't getting my headaches weren't. I was getting headaches like it was.
Jenny Wilkins manages the street health team. She says more frequent and aggressive abatement sweeps since the city passed its unsafe camping ordinance have made it harder to keep track of patients.
On one hand, I have seen where people have been more willing to accept help or take advantage of alternate opportunities because they're tired of being shifted and moved around and displaced, so regularly. And then I've also seen where people have retreated into the recesses and they're like never to be found, and so we're left wondering what happened to them, where they went, are they okay?
City leaders say the camping ordinance has helped them connect people to shelter services. Franklin Coopersmith is the deputy director of the Environmental Services Department's Clean SD division. He says the city's homeless outreach team recently spent several days at an encampment at the Choyas Parkway open space.
They were able to get 16 of the 20 people into some type of housing option.
Before the ordinance, the city gave 72 hours notice before clearing an encampment, Now they give 24 hours.
So we found that as a really good middle ground of trying to be compassionate while also addressing public health and safety.
Once people move onto state or private property, they can't enforce the ordinance.
It's an imaginary real line that exists right there, and they know they can go on the other side, and that's where our resource stops. We don't go onto state, we don't go onto private, we don't go onto county property to do the abatement process.
Caltrans says it prioritizes removing encampments that present a threat to infrastructure or people. The agency gives 48 hours notice unless there's an imminent safety risk. Steve Shablasky is captain of SDPD's Neighborhood Policing Division. He says they're talking with state authorities about how they can work together.
We can only do so much, and we have to focus on city property, and I don't know if we can get into the world of policing 151 miles of state highways within the city. We just don't have enough resources.
Last week, State Senator Catherine Blakespear announced a bill that would require Caltrans to coordinate with local governments to address encampments and fund cleanup efforts, outreach programs, and shelter services. Mayor Todd Gloria co-sponsored the bill, saying he hopes it will help cities like San Diego address the growing problem of freeway encampments. Sakori is still living in a tent, but now she's at one of the city's safe sleeping sites. She can keep track of her belongings and stay with her husband and their dog.
Having somewhere to keep your stuff and not worry about it getting stolen or messed up, yeah, it's a big help.
It's also easier for the health team to find her, a growing challenge as other homeless patients move out of reach. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Starting this weekend, people parked within 20 feet of a marked or unmarked crosswalk may get a ticket under the state's daylighting law. That's about the length of a car and a half. The law aims to improve visibility for drivers and pedestrians near crosswalks. It went into effect on New Year's Day, but the city of San Diego implemented a 60-day grace period. Tickets will cost $65 plus a state-mandated administrative fee for a total of $77.50. San Diego Assemblyman Chris Ward has introduced a bill to prohibit surveillance pricing in California. It's a practice that leads merchants to charge different prices to different people. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge explains.
Most people know about computer cookies and how merchants can recognize us online and know what kind of stuff we like. Democratic Assembly member Chris Ward says this is why companies with an online presence can charge you a higher price for the same product if they think you're likely to pay it.
What we have found is a growing body of evidence where companies are being encouraged to use surveillance pricing using your own personal data from your cell phone, from the IP address attached to your home computer, to modulate the pricing on goods or services that you pay. And that runs completely afoul to what we believe should be a direct and very basic consumer interest, that you should pay the same price for the same product regardless of who you are.
Ward says he's got no problem with stores giving discounts to veterans or students. He wants to stop the kind of price discrimination where companies use personal electronic information about buying habits that most people have no idea is going on.
We need standard pricing because that's the way we've always fairly operated as a consumer society, and make sure that surveillance pricing is defined in the law, because it isn't defined in California code now. This is a new thing we have to keep up with the times, and make sure that that is prohibited.
One example of surveillance pricing: 2 years ago, the San Diego district attorney settled a case of fraud against Target. Target was accused of advertising a price for an item on their website, but once GPS showed the customer's smartphone was in close proximity to a store, the price on their smartphone increased to match the higher price the store was charging for the item. Or, let's say you're a stressed-out parent that needs to order diapers. If an online retailer knows you've sought out expedited delivery before, you could be charged a higher price for it because the merchant believes you're more likely to pay it.
There's just so much information a company can have on you, whether they've directly collected or bought it, that they can basically like hack your mind and prey on your impulse. I mean, it sounds hyperbolic, but they are preying on your impulses and your desires.
KPBS contacted several other groups seeking comment, including Redalon.com, offering AI strategies for retailers, the California Retailers Association, and CTIA, representing the wireless communications industry. None of them got back to us. Chris Ward says price discrimination can prey on people in poorer neighborhoods.
If they're farther away from some stores and it's a lot harder to be able to get certain products, companies know this, and so they are increasing the prices for some of those very same products at those stores because you don't have as many options.
Ward's bill, AB 446, will soon go before the California Assembly's Privacy Committee. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Hard to believe it, but tomorrow marks the beginning of March and the reopening of the flower fields at Carlsbad Ranch. This year's theme, where color takes flight. This season will introduce a new traveling art exhibit by a sculptor. Live music, tractor rides, and wine tasting will also return. Our media partner KGTV spoke to the general manager, Fred Clark, who says this year will be its most colorful season to date.
When you stand here and you look at this color, you can't believe it. I mean, the tulip fields in Holland are nice, but this is better. I might be a little biased, but there's nothing like this in the world. You can't go anywhere and see this, and it's our little gem right here in Southern California. If you haven't been to the flower fields, you've got to come because you won't believe it.
Yeah, it sure is a gem. The flower fields will remain open through early May. Tickets are $27 for adults and $17 for kids ages 3 to 10. There are military and senior discounts too. Be sure to purchase your tickets ahead of time as you won't be able to get them at the door.
Well, as we head into the weekend and start the month of March, I am tracking a warm forecast here across the south. Dry and mild weather continue there across the Rockies, but across Southern California will be dry for now. But as we head into Saturday night, throughout the day on Sunday and into Sunday night, heavy rainfall across Northern California. That rainfall will extend all the way down the southern west coast here across the state. And we'll be tracking some pretty good snowfall there across the higher elevations in the mountain ranges. Some pretty good mountain snow. And then as we head into Sunday, we'll still see some of that lingering rainfall, but it will start to taper off across the San Diego Valley. It'll primarily be across Northern California. That's where we'll see the heaviest rainfall amounts shaping up. But as we head into tonight, we will see low clouds near the coast. Can't rule out the possibility of a few stray showers there as the sun comes up for your early Saturday. Lows tonight in the mid-50s. Across the rest of the region, we'll see some mild conditions, a mix of 40s and 50s. We'll see some more cooler conditions here across the higher elevations with some 30s here. But overall, watching out for some rain chances here as the sun comes up. Future track radar showing 6 a.m. Saturday morning. You'll see most of the heavy rainfall will be to the north, but that rainfall will slowly be working its way to the south. So by sunrise here for your early Saturday, I can't rule out the possibility of a few stray showers here across Southern California, but most of the organized rainfall is going to stay well to the north here, and some heavy rainfall amounts late Saturday, early Sunday across far northern California. And look what happens Sunday morning. We'll see widespread rainfall and mountain snow here developing across the mountains. So it is going to be a pretty active forecast here shaping up. For tomorrow, lots of sunshine. Highs will be in the 60s, pretty mild for this time of year. 64 for Oceanside and Camp Pendleton. For that extended coast forecast, we'll see 60s with rain chances here. Best chance of rain will be on Monday and Wednesday. Inland forecast will be mild, tracking some rainfall as we head into next week. Across the mountains, we'll see some cooler air and breezy conditions. And then across the desert, sunny skies with temperatures in the 70s.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the News Hour, a meeting between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky is cut short after a tense exchange in the Oval Office. It's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
It's been almost 2 years since Major League Soccer announced San Diego as their 30th expansion team. KPBS reporter Melissa May caught up with the team recently about how much the fans mean to them and their expectations for the season.
On February 23rd, San Diego FC opened their season on the road against the reigning MLS Cup champions, LA Galaxy. Thousands of San Diego FC fans made the trip to Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Midfielder Anders Dreyer scored the first league goal in club history.
You can really feel the energy from the fans and the passion about now having a football team in San Diego. It's Yeah, you can feel it, definitely. We can feel it out here, and as I said, like, we need that 12th man at home. The fans is our 12th man.
The team beat Galaxy 2-0 in their first ever league match and are excited to play in front of 35,000 fans at Snapdragon Stadium.
No, es increíble. Yo creo que el cariño que me muestran, el cariño que me dan, siempre creo que es mutuo. Y darles un poco de alegría y esos detalles para la gente, para los niños especialmente.
Forward Tomas Angel says it's an honor to be a part of San Diego FC's history.
Obviously, everything you do and do well, it's going to be there for forever, and nobody's going to erase it, so it's very exciting.
Head coach Mikey Varis explains what it means to him to be a part of the MLS's newest team.
At the end of the day, we also cherish the responsibility that comes with it, and it's a big responsibility because we know the club will be here 100 years from now.
He describes his expectations for the club this year.
Yeah, expectations are there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be really high highs as we had in Galaxy. And listen, we're gonna trip and we're gonna have stumbling blocks. But what I know is that the guys are gonna stay committed to our style of play, to our values, and to who we are.
Coach Varis says the most important thing this season in both training and games is how they can impact the momentum, or what the team calls flow, going in their direction. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And KPBS is launching Soccer a la Frontera, a 5-part video series that tells the story of soccer's cultural growth over the last 5+ decades in the San Diego-Tijuana region. The first episode drops Monday, March 3rd. You can learn more at kpbs.org/soccer a la Frontera. And you can find tonight's stories on kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.